Yo, yo! What's going on, everybody? Another watch list time. It's turned out to be more of like a trade review and watch list because I've been using this to kind of document the setups from each day, how I trade them, stuff that I miss, etc. And then go into a watch list the next day and then kind of see how I trade it. So it's been helping me for my review process as well. So without further ado, after hours here, Apple's earnings got whacked pretty good, and that dragged the rest of the market down with it. Brought Tesla, brought AMD, and gladly took steady lows all day. Even though SPY was chopping around sideways, but still holding its very large gap from the prior day. GUR decided to gap down and fade right back to lows. So I think if you go back and watch the scan, the watch list from yesterday, I showed my position over here in the 17s, and I kind of FOMO'd in full size. I don't hate the starter entry in pre-market, but I was full size by the time the market opened and didn't actually wait for it to fail. But the market doesn't care what your average is. So if I'm looking to short pops, if my average is 19, sure, I'm making a lot more down here, but a short at 19 is still risking 21. A short at 16 is still risking 21. It's just the risk reward aspect is different. So I took a step back. Would that have been a bit bigger loss than I would have liked? Yes. But plan-wise, strategy-wise, that's what I need to do. I need to accept a larger loss if it comes. And so far, nice fader. Hit SSR today, down 11%, and did break this higher low trend line in market hours. So all pops towards that 1750, this little 1750-18 range as a guide. And once it takes out, once it takes out this 16s, I think the floodgates open down for that 200 moving average level. So currently still swinging that one. USAR, I put on another swing here. Same plan, same setup from the watch list. Higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. Let it do its thing this morning. Right here. Pull back, no FOMO, let it chop around, pulls back right to lows, and then you start to get pops versus VWAP start to fail. It is on the more illiquid side, but for a smaller size, bigger picture idea, up a nice $1.50 or so on that trade. Covered a portion into the close just because looking left, we're right at this prior support level. So now it gives me room, if we get a gap up, to react to that gap up and use prior day's levels as a guide now that I have locked in. If you look back over here, you can see on this, once this higher low trend failed, it pulled nicely, but you get gap up, pulls, gaps up, pulls, and fails. So I don't want to be emotional into those gap ups. So I cover, lock some in, and then continue to swing for my bigger picture position. Do you reduce size on that trade because of liquidity and spread? For USAR, I was sized in a little bit over the highs. So once I was shorting here in like the 1050s, I wasn't risking like right on high a day. I was giving it some room, knowing that if it starts breaking 11, the spread could be 11.10, 11.15. So on a 1050 entry, I'm sized towards like 11.20-ish. So I don't adjust size per se in terms of lesser size because of the liquidity. I more adjust size because of the liquidity and just widen my stop to give myself a bit more wiggle room of that chop. So it's not a huge size trade for me. This is a bigger picture, let it work kind of idea. So yeah, I think that answers your question. Blue. Golan, how's it going? So yeah, Gur and USAR, couple swings. SEP, I had a swing overnight. I had noted on the watch list yesterday, buying that one in after hours in the low 40s. Woke up fairly early, around like 2 a.m. my time, somewhere around here, and we weren't getting the huge gap. Sometimes you get those 4 a.m. rippers. So I went back to bed for a couple hours and then checked back in around 7:30, and it was gapping over prior day's highs. So I was like, okay, looking good. And now at 8 o'clock, 5 a.m. my time, I'm on desk, and I'm at the screens and I'm watching intently. So with my, I think I had like a 42, 43 average, somewhere around here. Risking about $4 or $5, and it's gapping about $4 or $5. So I'm like, let me lock in a quarter with a 1-to-1 trade so that this will, I was, for the chase entry and the risk itself, I was sized a bit big. I was comfortable because I had conviction in the thesis, that I wasn't super worried if it did gap down. But if I had to take the loss, it would have stung a bit. So I figured reducing size by a quarter and locking in a 1-to-1 trade there, and then being able to give it time into market open and let it do its thing. So I let it spike and see if it wanted to hold. And this is a typical failed follow through setup that I go over all the time here. If I'm looking to short a stock, this kind of structure intraday is something I like to look for. So I sized down another quarter here once it started to fail to fall through. And I was still risking 38, 39, so was going to let it do its thing. It pulled back, double bottomed. And once it pulled back here, I made a comment in Investors Underground this morning at 9:42 a.m., which was right here. And I said, with that low a day hold, if it can set a higher low from here, that washout will be good for longevity. Because anybody who is long for this gap up, you get a morning spike that fails, and fails pretty hard, gives back $3 a share in a matter of a couple minutes. So I felt if this held, now could make a case for ads here, but given that I was already fairly sized from yesterday for my current risk profile, or for my personal risk profile, I decided not to put those sells back on and just let my overnight position work. But once it reclaimed and broke highs, I was now risking low a day. So was a win or win more position I was in. And start just locking in. Goal was 50 on that overnight gap. So locking in another quarter here. So now up through here, I have a quarter left. We get that big volume and straight up move. It doesn't halt, so I just start locking in that last quarter piece. I locked in maybe like a fifth, and then up here, this was just the last order, just kind of filling as it was jumping around up near the highs. So really nice trade on this one. Was a monster for me. No real plans on it moving forward now, but that was the predictable and trade I was prepared for. And then in Vinny, same setup. We go over here with the overextended gap up. I compared it to Weight Watchers with the overextended gap up. So that's what we got today. And I said if it was gapping around 50 cents, if you go back and look at the watch list, I said if it was gapping here around 50, I'm not very interested. But if we get something in that 70% plus range, then I will be. And that's pretty much what we got. Once 7 a.m. came in, started to rip nicely. They put out some earnings here at like 8:10 that didn't really have a reaction. No volume came into it. And then we set this base in pre-market right here around 68 cents. A lot of people short into the open with risk on pre-market highs. So once it cleared out through pre-market highs, I didn't want to short it because there's nothing saying that this is the top. But now we break opening range lows. I short, partial size with wide risk. Now we're breaking under 68s. I scale and risk to highs. And then we get hard crack lower highs. I size down, rescale. Completely covered here as that was a low a day break and quick reclaim. Now higher low. I put some on like a 1/10 position. I'm like, what's the point if this is going to grind all the way back? Why would I want to hold a starter and just give back profits? So I let it do its thing. And once we had this trend here break, I shorted. And then we got a stuff candle and I added. Sped up price action covers, reshort a quick pop, prior support become resistance, cover into the lows towards 50 cents. Goal was like 45 cents, and with it going straight down into 50, I felt like that was a decent cover spot. And it was coming into my 11 a.m. time when I typically try to get off desk to head to the day job. So unfortunately missed this 50 cent to 30 cent move. This is A grade. I almost prefer this entry here more than here. Even though the average is better here, the conviction on something like this is 10 times more for me. If you're shorting pops with risk on its prior high, so something like this with a 68 entry risking highs, I'm having to risk 10 cents. With this entry, if you're shorting pops here at 57, you can risk 62. You get a 5 cent risk. You cut your risk in half. You can have double the size you would have taken off the open. And then you also get this scale spot from the higher lows fail right through here. And that's definitely a scale spot where I'd move risk down to 57s. And now you're getting 4 cents of risk with some realized already. Say you don't nail the top at 57, but say you're short at like 55. So now you have 2 cents of risk and you're in the money 2 cents. So that trade here is already risk free and you can scale in with 4 cents of additional risk on this low a day break. And that's how you pyramid in and really make a trade compound. So unfortunate miss on this trade. I'm not at desk. I do bring my laptop with me, but I'm not staring at it, and I'm busy at times. So it is what it is. Really nice fader. Pulled back right into the daily for EMA. It's not on this chart here. I have it on my other one, but it's sitting right around those mid 30s, 35, 36, and pulled right back into it. So now if you look left, if you know what my my setups are that I typically look for, we get multi-day breakouts, which this one didn't happen. So then you get a multi-day runner. Now I'm looking to short overextension, mean reversion. Once you get that first red day, now I'm waiting patiently for a backside bounce. We've got a huge volume profile here, right around 30 cents. And we've pulled back into prior resistance, the consolidation before it sped up. So for me, given how this has pulled back today, where it set its high a day on its opening minute, and now we're pulling back into prior resistance, possible support. Ideally, I would like a sub 35 gap down, maybe a test of 30, and then play an opening range high a day break for a rally back up into those mid 40s, 50 cents. I do think this has faded enough off of its highs to warrant a backside bounce. Any gap ups towards 50 cents, gap up and spike, I like for a shortened resistance. So it's just a matter of which way it gaps. If it's gapping down, I like for reversal. Gapping up, I like for failed fall through. So between GUR, I'm still swinging full size. USAR, I covered a portion. And then SEP and Navini were my trades from today. Was one of my best days of the year today. So really pleased with the executions. And the trouble with being a trader is it's never good enough, because I look at Invini and think of how much more I could have made. And I look at kids and this entry here on its little gap and crap reversal this morning, where it pulls back, double bottom, break of this lower high, this 230, 240 entry. I had my finger on the trigger, but I was focused on Invini and SEP. That I wasn't super focused on it. I just saw the opportunity. But that's a 30 cent risk. And even right here, you're making 3 to 1 in that spike. let alone if you carry any size for the big picture move. But this is like a sector momentum sympathy move to JNVR, if you recall this name recently, and UPXI, same PR and same not really same daily chart, but the same news and fundamentals behind it. So that was the reason for the kids run. And in the name, I mean, kids run all the time. We should have known. But really good move. Kyle nailed it today. I shouldn't say nailed it. He was out in the threes, but he had a great entry there in the mid twos up towards 3. Up at 8. Not one I am personally interested in shorting. You can see how their sympathy names are pains in the butt. But I will be looking for maybe a secondary move. If this can continue to hold its gains, maybe consolidate up near its highs and have a similar setup to how SEP set up over here, I'd really like to join the trend for a secondary move. So not what I'm interested in shorting, just given how the other names have acted. But I will keep it on watch as it's a very good percent gainer, up like 600% right now. Let me catch up on chat here. Do you go over the watch list of the other guys in IU or go over the chat history when you recap your day? Prefer the next day? Can you explain your process? Great trade, very similar look. Good opportunity, yes. What's up, Jeff? Congrats. Thank you guys. So yeah, going over watch lists, I go over kind of names and traders that kind of fit my style and personality. I don't want to go into the day with 10 names on watch and overwhelm myself and kind of shotgun style and just hope you hit something. So I go over a few guys' lists, mainly when Cody's doing his, and he focuses on small caps, so I like hearing his perspective. He hasn't done one in a while. He's busy traveling. I go over Nate's every night because certain setups, Nate and I trade similar. Stuff like in Vinny today, we would have traded very similarly. And I go over aerials as well because that's where I got the setups for stuff like USAR and GUR. Was I learned those from Ariel, so I like to see if he's got any of those kinds on watch. So I kind of go over them as a review because these guys are in front of the desk all day and they've got more experience than I do. So I like to see their perspective on tickers I'm already watching or on setups that I would like to watch and tickers I might have missed. And then I do go through the chat history in the lounge and the momentum room every evening. I typically try to do it before I hop on here. I did today. When Nate's not in the room, the time to go through the history is quite a bit quicker. But I just filter it the same way, like by mods or guys that I trade similar to. So it's people like Godfather, Divided Champ. We trade some daily long setups similarly. When Nate's in there. Who else? Turbo. I read some of his stuff. But yeah, a bunch of the guys that are kind of familiar faces in there that you see chat. I typically like to review their stuff. So I'll go through, the scans or the chat logs in both of the chat rooms each evening. Again, everybody's in there every day, so if Nate's posting key levels, it might be something that you would have had to recognize in the moment. And if I'm not here trading all day, then that is now edge that he can provide me value that I can use going into the next day. So with me watching Navini this morning trade off that 50 cent level, if I get a pop back up into there, I know that this is very good support that could become resistance. But if I'm not watching it there, then maybe someone else in the room might have noted a key level. Something like I noted 68s this morning as a key level. So if someone wasn't there trading the market open, and maybe they come back later in the day and they're like, oh, 68s was a key level, let me draw that line. So that's how I like to use it. I know I'm not here every day, so I don't get all of the screen time and value that might contribute to a trade the next day. So I like to use other guys' eyes as mine and review each night before making my watch list. So I hope that answers your question. Can you explain your process? So that's my process that I use with IU. And then I just go over I read through Clover Trading. I've got access to their chat room. I read through the stuff that Kyle does over there because I trade very similarly to Kyle. So I like to see what he did well on and other names on his watch lists. So yeah, I just kind of filter through the watches of tickers and styles that I trade, and then get people that are better than me and more experienced and get their opinions on them. So Kyle and I, we were both trading in Vinia together this morning. Yeah, so I think that answers your question. Any thoughts on Weight Watcher at this point? Yeah, I have that one on my watch list. We can go through my watch list for tomorrow. So this one here it did go red briefly here, but today was the first time it really held red. So if you zoom out here, gapped up, flushed red, and pop started to fail. Did squeeze everybody out through highs, so was by no means something easy to short. But now we've broken the 70-cent level, and if you look left, that red line right through here, 70 cents is a huge level, where now all of this volume is stuck overhead. So if we're not gapping down too much tomorrow, and if we get I'd like a bit more volume than today. Only 30 million shares traded today. That's, what is that, $21 million volume? Not a ton. So ideally volume picks up, maybe get a 70 exhaust and sit back. And I think this could fade back to the 40s. If we do fade back to the 40s, I think we could have a backside bounce back to 70 cents. But I would be more short bias based on this 70-cent breakdown. I think there's far too many bag holders stuck up at these levels. So that would be my plan on that one. Still watching GUR, so that one's on watch. If this continues to fail and take out these 16s, I like that for a scale opportunity now that it's broken this higher low trend line. I like this mid 16s fail, a scale versus whatever highs of days are. Pony, this one's given up here into the close. Did pull back this morning, but held those looking left levels. Squeezed everybody out and then closed right on lows a day. Not really something I love, but if 850s, 860s confirm, this could get hit maybe for $1 or so. But I don't think I'll take it, just because I think there's better opportunities out there. Omex, I'm still carrying the same bias on this until it completely unwinds, that I think they're liquidity trapping for higher and unlock baby shelf. We've had this steady fade, steady fade, steady fade. So I will be looking at opening range high a day breaks to join for a risk reward entry. So right here, this was on the 30th, on yesterday. High a day set and fades. And then today, high a day gets set and fades. So the last couple days, high a day gets set in the morning and then continues to fizzle off. So I'd be looking for 120s-ish to hold, opening range high a day breaks, and look for this lower high trend line to break out. And again, swings on this are risky because they do have offering ability. But the thesis being that they want it higher. So I think with the extension of this name, I think it should have died by now. And the fact that it's holding up, I think, is notable. So we'll look for this lower high trend line to break and see if it can sustain. WW went over. TMC, each week open gets saved. This is in the same USAR basket. So if this can take out 290s, I think that bodes well for USAR and the rest of the basket. GMH, not doing much. ABVE, this is getting sexy. Nice multi-day run. I was doing some digging in the filings before hopping on here, trying to figure out the why behind this name because the PR doesn't seem that great. There's no dilution in this. There's no overhead resistance. There's no history of multi-day runs. So I'm like, what is going on here? They reported earnings here on the 30th, and now they have one piece of the puzzle before getting back above non-compliance, and that is the $1 minimum bid. So if they can hold above $1 for 10 days consecutively, then they've regained compliance. They've satisfied all the other issues, non-compliance issues. I'm still looking to trade this technically. If you look at how the slope is, you can see like this, and then here in the morning starts to go, and then right here it just goes whoosh. So the slope on which this is running, let me get rid of these now. So the slope on which this is trending is starting to get steeper and steeper, which isn't sustainable. But I'm thinking they just needed it far enough away from $1 that if it does extend and fail, that it's not going to get below $1 for 10 days. So they're on day 3 now. This day closed above $1, and now 1, 2, 3 days. So range expansion is coming in. Volume, not so much. But the way that these daily candles are getting, I definitely have it on watch for an overextension trade. It's getting out of hand. So this is definitely a main watch. I don't think it's on a lot of people's radar, given the liquidity. I don't think it hits a lot of people's scans. So I will be watching that one. Mbot, Fizzlin, and Vinny we went over. Either gap down or gap up. Prepared for both. USAR, prepared to reshort gap ups. Still have a position, but prepared to add to that winner. And if we gap down, we'll just let the trend do its thing. Kids, no plan on it tomorrow, but just keeping it on watch for a possible breakout like the rest of them. And Hecti, I had this one just on here. I'm going to delete it in a second, but I just wanted to showcase the failed follow-through setup where midday, big pop, rip, consolidates, doesn't break prior support, so you can draw lines. This is how Nate teaches. So you draw a line at prior support, it breaches but doesn't fail, and then you've got prior resistance, and then where's the next dip that holds? Right here. And now you get a fail. It hasn't come back and retested, so you don't need to just slam in. I typically do when it fails, and then just cover if it does one of these. Like if I wanted to short it here, I'd short it and then it wicks back, so I'd stop. So you could short here, but now you get pops that aren't able to reclaim that prior failed fall through. Even if you don't go off the wick, if you look at like 39 or 40 cents, pops are failing. They're not reclaiming, so that's a failed fall through setup. So a short up into 40 cents with risk on highs is a good opportunity. More fails. Slam this hard crack, lower highs. You can scale here versus a now lower high risk off of 40 cents and let it do its thing, and you get a nice steady fader. So it was just a trade opportunity that I saw when I was scanning. And of course, it's later in the day, so I wasn't able to take it. But it's definitely an opportunity that I would take if I was on desk. So thought I would showcase that. Anything else in the chat? Glad to hear. Very similar to what I've been looking for. Would you prefer opening gap up or down tomorrow in ABVE? ABVE is the kind that's higher the better. So I'd prefer a gap up. Yeah, the higher this thing goes, the better. I'd prefer a 3+ gap off of a range expansion day. And if we can get a candle like this, if this were to range expand today and then gap up 3+, and then get a volume bar like this off the open, more like this with a red candle, where it rips up and you get a bunch of selling pressure. I think a 3+ gap with a volume exhaust, I think, is far enough extended from the EMA. You get volume speed up and you get daily bar speed up. I think that would be like a grade setup for me. So I don't really want it to gap down. I'd probably still trade it because it hasn't gapped down in 1, 2, 3 days. It's held green. So I'd probably be forced to trade it, but I definitely wouldn't prefer it. The close is right around here. So right now we are gapping up 230s to 260s. Love that. What do you look for a cover? For a cover, I use the daily 4 exponential moving average as a potential cover spot. And then I typically trail a position with a prior 5-minute bar. That was part of the reason with these cells up here. You can see right here, a higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, and then right here. So if you trail, I didn't, I was locking in. But if you trail a 5-minute bar low, it keeps you in the trade fairly well, in my opinion, on these multi-day movers. When would a Vinny have stopped? That was what I covered here. Right here. So that would have stopped. So if you shorted 68, you would have had a 1-to-1 trade on that one. But it keeps you in like most of the range before a slight trend shift. So I would be trailing it with like a 5-minute bar stop. And then big picture pullback potential would be to the daily 4 exponential that I have on this chart right here. It's this yellow line right here. So you can see it kind of hugs it as it's going up, but as it extends, like if you look at Invini today, when it was gapping at the 70s, the 4 EMA was like right here in the 30s. And then it pulls back towards it. So I'm using that to gauge extension. What else? I think I've showed that on here before, where you get multi-day run, pull back to the 4 EMA. ARCE? What was that other one? What was the name? It's trading at like 90 cents right now. Sorry, with an A. Someone will get it, hopefully. What's the ticker? You guys remember? It's trading at 90 cents right now. AREC. AREC. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. God bless. God bless. This one was a multi-day run and pull back to the 4 EMA. So I will be looking at that. I won't know where the 4 EMA is until market opens, but yeah, I hope this thing gaps like 3+. So main watches tomorrow are managing my swings on GUR and USAR, and then I've got Omex, Weight Watcher, AbbVie, and Invini. Busy, busy, busy. But small caps are working. This is my kind of market with these multi-day moves. This is what I like to trade. So continue to burn the candle until the trend shifts. Let me go back to my other chart here. I'm skeptical where the SPY is at right now. Can we fill the gap? I have no idea. You like to play those guesses. I don't. Maybe we pull back to 530. I don't know. I don't know what this thing's going to do. No idea. VIX. This thing looks like it's just knocking on heaven's door here. Looks like it wants to die. So yeah, anyways, those are my watches. If there's anything else you want to touch on, I will wait for a couple minutes. But that's all I wanted to go over. And yeah, let me know if you got anything else, otherwise we can wrap it up. Glad to finally make a live. These are super helpful. Appreciate the feedback. Thank you, thank you. Stuff and such. Thanks, dude. Jeff, thanks. Appreciate everything. Bass Hunter, thanks. Get in where you fit in. And make some goddamn memories. Don't forget that. Never forget it. Alrighty. I guess we will wrap it up there. Thank you guys for tuning in. And yeah, I hope you guys trade them well tomorrow and then have a great weekend. Let's keep May going strong. First day of May today, so let's keep it going. And yeah, I hope you guys are doing well, having fun, getting in where you fit in, and making some memories. I will see those of you in IU, and the rest of you I will see you next week. Peace.